Hi everyone, welcome back to the 3D Light tutorials. This is tutorial number 4 on multiple output passes, very useful for compositing. So let's go into Maya. We have a basic scene here and I already pre-created for demo purposes my render passes, but if you start with start you will have a default render pass. So we will concentrate on these tabs of the render pass, the primary displays and secondary display. This is the default settings. So render primary display is on and the display driver is set as iDisplay. This means that if I click the render button here, I will put into iDisplay the beauty image that this scene is supposed to render. There you go. We have a couple of lights, maybe a rim, kind of rim light here, and shadow and some ambient, diffuse and specular stuff. Excellent. So what happens if we, instead of iDisplay, we create, we choose a display driver different than iDisplay or Maya render view, which will put the image in the render view of Maya. I by the way, suggest to use iDisplay instead. If I put TIFF, I can put a TIFF file name, for example, this is a test, or whatever, beauty.tiff, and my beauty.tiff file, you can actually put the hash, and that will add the frame number. If I do this, the image won't be rendered anymore on the iDisplay, but will a beauty.001 .tiff will be generated on disk. We can actually check this right now. Let me open Finder, actually here, and go on the tutorial number 4, and the beauty0001.tiff was generated. We can open it with many programs. Let's open it and check. There you go. I already had it open, the previous version. So that's it. That's our image. You see the name beauty001.tiff. Okay, let's go back here. And so we understood more or less how it works. We can switch to iDisplay again, and it would render. It won't render anymore the file on this, but you can leave the name there. Now, besides the fact that you can change the channels and the data type, and also you can quantize, custom quantize your image, you have the same for secondary displays. This means that you are able to render multiple images with one render process without spending more time. This is a fantastic feature. So now we can add a secondary display and call it diffuse no shadow dot hash dot tiff. We can leave we can choose to either render a TIFF or just see it in iDisplay. That's fine for now. So what we want to do now is just to put into this image the diffuse component without the shadow. As if you click on the display AOV, that means arbitrary output values, you can see all the passes which are supported right now. So it's a lot of passes, and all these passes actually work fine with all Maya shaders. So right now the scene is made of Maya shaders, and we will choose just diffuse no shadow. There we go, and put the image on iDisplay, or eventually write a TIFF. Again, we have other options to choose the bit depth and eventually the quantize if we go floating point. But and we can also override the pixel filter. This is also a special feature of 3D Light. And also we have some flags for compositing, like putting or not putting the alpha channel, and decide if the matte attribute on objects is important or not for the pass, etc. You can check this on the manual. If I just render this, we will create a secondary image on iDisplay. So once iDisplay will open up, I can even see, there we go, my diffuse intensity. In this case is the intensity on a separate channel. I can see it's even browse through the channels at render time while the image is generated. And you can see here the name is kept, so it's a really cool feature. By the way, you can control the names and the font from here you can change the size to, I don't know, 18 and change the color to, I don't know, light blue. There you go. So anyway, we can start adding, and depending on what we want to do, start adding all the AOV we need. So for example, now we can choose, I don't know, ambient, and we can put a name here, ambient dot hash dot tiff, and so on. We can start adding several layers. Now, for demo purposes, I already created all I needed. So if you go in passes for iDisplay here, this is the render pass I've created. It contains a beauty pass, a specular no shadow, a diffuse no shadow, a shadow pass, an ambient pass, a key light specular, a key light diffuse. The key light thing, it's something extra. You basically can mark lights as key lights. I'm sorry. That means that I decided this light here is a key light. How do I do it? You can also do it on multiple lights, but I did it for this one. So you select your light, go to the attribute node manager, which we've seen already in the previous lesson, choose the light tab, create and assign a light attribute. So once you do this, the light attributes will be created, and here under the MISC tab you can mark your light as a key light. So we have this light here is attached to the light attributes, and the key light flag is on. That means that this light is basically considered a key light. Now if we go back to the render pass for iDisplay, you will see that all these passes have the of course relative AOV set, and all these passes have a display driver iDisplay. That means that we will see all the passes on iDisplay itself. If I render now, we will split this image in all these components. And you can browse through the images at render time. This is also amazing. So what did we create here? The fact that we can have the name allows us to understand very well. So this is the beauty pass. This is the specular no shadow for both lights. This is the diffuse no shadow for both lights. This is the shadow pass. It seems black, but if you hit the A key on your keyboard, you will see the alpha channel. So it's actually as we wanted. Then we have the ambient pass. Then we have the key light, so only the directional light that we've seen before, this guy here, is shooting on this specific pass, and this is the diffuse of that light. In compositing, we can subtract those. And this is again our beauty pass. So we've rendered all these passes, and at the same time, I've created another render pass, which is called passes for comp. It's exactly the same, but instead all these names here have a display driver set to diff and the correct name. This means that if we render this, we will get all the files on disk, and this is exactly what I did here. So if you open the 3D Light Tutorials directory for this particular 04 output pass, you will find all the passes here. I backed it up into these directories: ambient, beauty, diffuse no shadow, key, specular, and diffuse. Actually, I think is here. Key diffuse, yes, and shadow and specular no shadow. This means that if you go in your favorite compositor, in my case this is Shake, you can build up your network easily. So this is my ambient pass. You can see I'm loading the ambient 001.tiff, and this is my diffuse pass, and this is my diffuse key light, this is my specular light, and this is my specular key light. So actually this specular contains both the key and the other light, so I can subtract them, and then I have only one light. And then I can just start playing with it. So for example, I can fade the effect, and I'm just going to add all these passes one on top of each other, and then through the let's go here, through the fade nodes that I insert in my comp, I can decide to turn off one light. You see, I'm basically tuning down the my key light, and maybe say, no, I don't like that color anymore. Let's switch to whatever I want to have it. I want something pink, and there we go. And again, here I have another fade for the diffuse component of the light, and I can really play in this the compositing logic basically. And at the end, I basically multiply over, I just fade over the shadow, and I can also control the shadow. This is the shadow pass, actually. So you can see it here is pre-multiplied. Here, this is just the alpha, so it's exactly this. Okay, that's good. So switch back, and this is the final image tuned, and this was the original one, and here I changed a bit the color and the intensity of the shadow. So pretty much cool, and you know, you can also compare it, and you see what you like, what you don't like, and that's pretty cool. And maybe here I have too much, faded out too much my shadow. Just browse it. Anyway, this is the comp side. The comp side, you can really twist your image, and you have a lot of control. You don't need to re-render all the times. So let's back into Maya, and I'll just show you one last thing, and then we are done. So, by the way, this works for animation. So if you're rendering an animation, this will start rendering each frame, and this hash character will put the correct frame number. I remember to you the animation controls are here. You can just say render 1 to 24, and it will start rendering all the passes for each frame. We can do an example at the end. What I wanted to show you before was that if you select the variables, you not only have the possibility to put secondary display AOV, but you can also put render variables. So for example, the color of the surface, the normal, the point being rendered in some specific space, etc. You have basically 40 of these. You can see these into the renderman manuals and the 3D Light renderman manuals. So if you set some actually some CS colors with the delighted geo attribute nodes which are attached to each of the meshes. Red, green, and blue. Okay, so these are just the light geo attributes node attached to each of these three objects here. And what I did, I just opened the general tab and set a color. This is called CS. And once you render with the render variables preset here, you will create on iDisplay some passes which contain variables. So they are actually unrelated to shaders in this case. Of course, you can put any variable, even your own ones, in your own custom shaders. Pretty powerful system. In this case, this is the P coordinate in some, I don't know which space, and this is the normals of this scene, and these are the CS variables which you can use to color selection in compositing. So you really have a lot of powerful tools here to build an excellent comp. And as I said before, we could try to render our animation. If you go into render, I think I put it in passes for comp, and yes, enabled animation 1 to 24 frames, and we just render this, and 3D Light will start rendering each of the frames and put the beauty pass into the iDisplay, I think. Each of the passes being rendered, and if we go here on the previous directory, you will start seeing all the passes. So for example, diffuse no shadow 1, specular no shadow 1, 2, and so on. it will render them all. And once you do that, of course, and actually it's rendering all the passes here. And once you do this, all the animation will be done and you can comp it. Totally fine. So, beautiful system here in 3D Light to handle your compositing workflow very efficiently. So, bye bye and see you in the next tutorial.